evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Tuesday, November 1st, 2022 edition of the National Intel Report. I am your host for this Tuesday, Michael Herzog, and I will be with you for the next 2 hours. Now, the title for this evening's broadcast, As Round as a Marble or As Flat as a Pancake? We're going to explore something a little different tonight, folks. In early 2017, I was asked by John Statner to write 2 different messages for the listening audience, to outline the unique purpose of RBN and to remind us of the times in which we live. Both messages still hold true today. Now, the first one begins with, folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. You've all heard that message countless times over the years. But in the context of the discussion we're about to hear tonight, it's in the spirit of the second message I wrote that John conveyed to all of you, of which you will hear in a moment. But first, as the falsities may relate to tonight's report, I wish to remind you just of a few in a long list of lies we've been fed throughout our lives by the government. Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone gunman in the JFK assassination, lie. The phony Gulf of Tonkin incident, lie. The excuse needed to escalate the Vietnam War. The 9/11 lie. The excuse needed to remake the Middle East. The weapons of mass destruction lie, the excuse promoted to oust Saddam Hussein. The Bashar al-Assad gassing his own people lie. That one pushed as an excuse for regime change in Syria. It failed, by the way. The Muammar Gaddafi killing his own people lie. The generation-long denial of chemtrails lie, of which only recently has been admitted as real. And speaking of recently, the border is secure lie. Inflation is only 8.3%, lie. And the COVID jab is good for you, lie. Now, with those in mind, I want you again to listen closely to the following message. Mike, go ahead and play that clip.
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions, in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Folks, tonight I find those prophetic words John delivered extremely accurate, as I'm on a platform about to interview an exceptional, though not the typical guest, to do just what John had conveyed, to provoke critical thought and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between. Now, to be clear here, I'm not a current believer in the flat earth theory. However, I'm not a disbeliever, and I'm willing to listen. Are you? So that's exactly what we're going to do tonight as I bring on my special guest and we explore a very controversial subject. Is the earth as round as a marble or as flat as a pancake? And with that, I want to welcome David Weiss. Welcome to the National Intel Report, David.
Thanks, Michael. And listening to your intro, you sound very awake and aware. This is the last step up the ladder of awareness.
Well,
it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, let me start with this question, David. From your research and perspective and your conclusion, number one, is the world as round as a marble or as flat as a pancake? And even more importantly, why would they lie, David? Go ahead.
Yeah, these are good questions. And the first thing is, flat is not a shape. It's a description of level and horizontal. And okay, we can go over all of the stuff that shows that. We live on a topographical Earth. We have Mount Everest. We have the Mariana Trench. There's a few miles in between the tops and the bottoms there. So to say flat, well, people get hung up on words. It's not flat. It's a level plane with hills and valleys, a topographical plane. So we are not a spinning ball. And here's the thing. When I first heard about this, I wasn't as open-minded as you. I said, you're crazy. I banned people from my social media, from our podcast social media, from even commenting because they're too stupid to listen to my show. They think the earth is flat. But then it was our mutual friend, Sophia Smallstorm, who, when we were talking about some major deceptions on a long phone call, I was on the phone with her from Connecticut all the way to my podcast studio in New York City. And I'm sitting down, getting ready to start the show. And I said to Sophia, there's so much deception in this world. It's mind-blowing. And she goes, oh, David, I think it's worse than that. I think the earth might be flat. and I literally flipped out. And she sent me a couple of videos. And back then in 2014, 2015, whatever that was, if you watch a video, YouTube recommended, hey, here's another similar video. Now YouTube will just feed you nonsense. You Google my name, you Google flat Earth, you get fed all the same propaganda, all of the the paid deceivers.
Well, let me interject here. First of all, since the censorship started, anything of any value and something that allows cognitive thinking and allowing people to make an educated decision has been banned.
Yes.
But in light of you saying that it was Sophia Smallstorm, I mean, I'm not surprised that because as you know, she's a talker, and I mean, her and I are very good friends, and we have been for 15 years. So yeah, she has a tendency to bend your ear on, but she's so amazingly intelligent. She seems like she has a photographic memory. She spouts off stuff that just blows me away.
I credit some of my intelligence to her, to listening to her so much. So I got it by osmosis. So.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. First of all, I want you to give out your website for anybody that has the interest in wanting to explore this to any great detail. And I have to mention to you, David, that I don't have anything specifically by you. I know you have a website, but Sophia sent me I guess it's 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball by a guy by the name of Eric Dubé. Are you familiar with him?
Dubé. Yeah, he was one of the OGs. He was like the first guy talking about flat Earth in early teens, 20 teens. So that's a good one to watch. But there's a lot other one. There's a lot of other ones too. It was 200 Proofs, and then Mark Sargent. He put out a series called The Clues. Those are the first two things I watched, and then I started digging in deeper and deeper. My website is flatearthdave.com. It actually leads you to theflatearthpodcast.com, but it's much easier to remember and type flatearthdave.com. All my links are there, all my social media, all my YouTube channels, my interview channels, my short video channels, my TikTok, my Instagram. It's all there, and my app. Here's the thing. If you are getting ready to tune this dial off, don't tune it off because I offer 3 Bitcoins for 1 globe proof. Anybody wants 3 Bitcoins? If you're following Bitcoin, that's like 60 grand today, maybe a little higher. And I'll even cash it out for you. Doesn't matter. Whatever you want. If you don't like crypto, that's fine. For 1 globe proof. And here's the thing. The way you become a flat earther is you try to debunk flat Earth. Or, better yet, you try to prove the globe. I know more about the heliocentric globe model than all of the globe believers out there. I would say if you knew a quarter of what I know of the official globe story, you would be a flat earther. I can guarantee it. Because the globe model is the dumbest, most ridiculous, scientifically impossible thing ever. But we're just told by a guy in a bow tie who lies, believe this, believe this, believe this. Oh, the sun's 93 million miles away. How did you figure that out? They won't tell you, right? And the story they tell you is ridiculous. So I can go on and on. I'd rather converse back and forth. So where do you want to go?
Well, let's start with this, okay? Because, usually, and my audience knows this, I do a lot of prep work, research before I bring a guest on. And in your case, I wasn't able to do that, so I had to refer to the 200 reasons that Sophia sent me. But I also went in, David, and I watched a couple of videos, one with Joe Rogan, who had a guest on I think his last name was Wick. And then another guy, this Dave Farina, I guess he calls himself the Internet Professor. And in both cases, I found them to be, they sounded good, but I have to admit, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a physicist. You start throwing algebraic or geometric questions at me, and I just fog over. But I will say this, and I've got one of the clips here that through that entire interview that Dave Farina is basically insulting you on YouTube, which to me was appalling in itself. But the second was that hold on a second. I've just got a message from William Repplum. But what I found was that both of these guys managed to discredit themselves. In Dave Farina's case, and I'll be happy to play the clip if you want to hear it, he's both an atheist And he claimed that in this alleged debunking he tried to do to you, that he goes after guys like you, but also he goes after anti-vaxxers. How could you say that in a day and age where they're trying to get us to roll up their sleeve and inject poison? That was him. Then I watched Joe Rogan's interview, where he interviewed a guy by the name, I think his last name was Wick. I'm not sure of his first name, but he was going off, and they were joking about you with a tinfoil hat and all this stuff. But then he claims that chemtrails don't exist. That's what's flushed his credibility right down the toilet.
Thank you for being awake. I appreciate that. Let me a quick comment on Dave Farina. Dave Farina calls himself Professor Dave. He's actually failed musician Dave. He's not a professor. He doesn't have a degree. And if you I sent you a link. Maybe you can link it on the show or something, or in the notes. I'm not sure you can do that. But it's an independent guy that broke down the entire 2.5-hour podcast on logical fallacies and ad hominems. And I'll just spoiler alert: Dave got 290 or something like that, and I got 16. Both mostly me saying, "Dave, stop being a dick." Okay, and so once you break it down that way, but people are so unintelligent and unable to think different from the herd. Right? They're just sheep in the herd. And when they hear a guy with the name Professor, I can call myself Professor Flat Earth Dave, and I'm equally as much of a professor as he is. They, my point was, they just kind of short circuit. They're like, oh, I don't want to be different. I don't want to be laughed at because Dave makes it sound like he's laughing, and, like you're being laughed at. And when I explained something very simple concept with the seasons, he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about, and moves on. It's so pathetic. But here's the real thing to notice is Google my name or Google Flat Earth. That video is number 1, 2, or 3 in the results. That tells you they want you to follow that and be deceived by it.
Right. Okay. Well, so we got that out of the way. Now, I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, but I'm a pilot, okay? And in pilot training, we learn, and this is a question that I had for you. And again, I remember I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, but I learned there's 2 different norths. Now, in the flat Earth scenario, I would assume with a compass that all indicators with that compass point to north, right? I mean, if you're looking north to south with a compass, you go anywhere on the Earth, whether it's flat or round, and it's going to point to north. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, you're correct.
Okay. Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, so in flight training, we learned that at different points around the world, I use world, not flat or not Earth, there's a deviation from true north and magnetic north. For example,
it's called magnetic declination, and Professor Dave didn't know what that was when I was speaking with him.
Okay. All right. So explain on the flat Earth scenario, magnetic north as opposed to true north, and why the variation. Go ahead.
So on our coordinate system, we use a 2-vector coordinate system, longitude and latitude. Why do you have a 2-vector X and Y coordinate system on a 3-dimensional Earth? Where's the Z-axis? On a flat Earth, it makes a lot of sense. So magnetic declination, different places in the world have different magnetic declination. The farther south you go, in some areas, it gets worse and worse. There are some places on the edge of the place that they call Antarctica where the magnetic declination is 170 degrees. That means when you break out your compass and it points that way, you have to turn around and face the other way, and that's north. What that is the magnetic declination is run by the controllers of the world. NASA is in charge of all GPS, all international flight routes. That is to hide the flat Earth, because when you wrap a flat map around a sphere, the north on the top isn't too far off, but the farther south you go, things get way out of whack. And if you go on my interviews channels, I go over that in almost every video. And once you see it, your mind opens up and you're like, wow, that doesn't make any sense at all. But the flight routes that they're taking and these directions. So Okay. Try not to get too technical, but I don't want people to short circuit.
Right. Okay. Well, let me preface this by saying this is a little more difficult in an audio format than it would be if we had a pictorial, with video as well. But for a moment, I want to go back up to the top at the beginning of this when I asked you the question: is the Earth as round as a marble or as flat as a pancake? And the pertinent question is, and we know they do this all the time, David, but why would they lie to us?
That is my favorite question, and there's some great answers, but it's like here's a horrible analogy. If you walked into a room and there was a bunch of slaughtered people, just a brutal scene, and it's just horrible, would you look and go, I don't see a motivation. I don't see, I can't imagine anybody would do this. Well, that's true. You can't imagine, but the evidence is there. Let's go over some of the evidence, and in the last section, we'll hit the why the lie hard there, or if you want, I could do it now. But I think
no, that's fine. Go ahead.
Let's get some evidence out there. Let's get the misunderstanding of what flat Earth is. Globe believers, I used to be one, so I'm not insulting anybody, have two things in common. One, they have no idea what their model is, and two, they have a false idea implanted by the de-education indoctrination system of what flat Earth is. So we have a couple of guys that go around, random people on the beach, on the boardwalks, and they say, hey, I've got $200 if you can answer 3 questions about the globe. Okay, let me throw it at you. And you've been doing research, so maybe you'll get these right. 3 simple questions. On the globe model, how many times does the Earth spin in 24 hours?
Once.
Very good. All right. In the globe model, how fast is the Earth orbiting around the sun?
1,000 miles an hour.
Nope.
Oh, excuse me. Wait. That's how fast the Earth is spinning.
Yeah, how fast is it orbiting around the sun?
Is it 86,000 miles an hour?
Close, 66,600 miles an hour. Funny number there.
Okay, yeah.
66.6. So there's so many 666s in the globe model. And then how far away is the sun?
According to them, 93 million miles.
Nope, you almost got it. But you've been researching. But when you go to just a normal person, you've been looking. You're already open-minded. When you say, I don't necessarily disbelieve it, or I have questions about the globe, you're already 90% there. We're going to take you the last 10% today.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we got a break coming up in about 2 minutes. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but we have 3 breaks an hour. And so I want to let you know that when you start to hear the music, the break's coming up. So we need to pause at the first break for 3 minutes. Okay.
I'm aware.
Okay. All right. So anyway, okay. So go ahead. You got the floor.
So real quick, the flat Earth. When people think about flat Earth, they think it's a disk floating in space. And then if you Google flat Earth, you end up at the Flat Earth Society, which is disinformation site, and says, oh, the gravity is because the Earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second. No flat Earther thinks either of those things. What is the flat Earth? So think about this, a pond, right? A pond, and go outside and look at a pond. It's a body of water, and the water is being held in from flowing away by the land that surrounds it that's consistently higher than the pond. And here comes
okay,
the break.
Well, hold that thought. We got the first break coming up, my friend. So we'll be back at 3, folks. This is going to get even more unusual as we proceed. I'm going to open up the lines in the second hour and let you call in with your questions, comments, or whatever you want. But we'll be back at 3 with my special guest, David Weiss, and the Flat Earth Theory. Be right back. All right, folks, we're back with the National Intel Report. Michael Herzog, your host, coming to you live from somewhere in the abyss of Arizona with my special guest, David Weiss. FlatEarthDave.com is his website, and I wanted to clarify something, Dave. I'm not quite 90%. I'm right around a little over 50-50 at this point. But we were on the subject of that enclosed pond, and you were describing that. So go ahead, continue.
So a pond is a body of water surrounded by land that's higher than it, that's holding the water in. Lower the edge of the pond, and the water will flow away. A lake is a bigger pond. The world's oceans are a giant lake. Just think of it that way. So what's holding the water in from falling off? It's not going to fall off because it's a lake. There's more land beyond the shoreline of our ocean. That land is the place that we call Antarctica. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth, and it is the land that surrounds our world. And we don't know the shape or how far out Antarctica goes. We actually have we're tracking some ships, cargo ships. There's a cargo ship tracking, and we saw a line of ships literally going through the middle of Antarctica, like deep inland. Like, how are these ships moving inland? So we don't know where Antarctica is. Antarctica is off limits to everybody. The Antarctic Treaty that went into effect 1959, or it was written in 1959, and now almost every country in the world has signed it. It can't even be questioned until the year 2041. No, powerful oil company can even talk about, hey, let us go to Antarctica where there's no people, there's no plants, there's no animals, and there's tons of resources. Nope, nobody can go there.
Can I interject something here? What I have seen, and it's not that I've been researching it, but there's articles that I peruse every week, sometimes on a daily basis, just for my own gratification. And it seems like it wasn't more than maybe a couple, 3 years ago that there was a litany of politicians that went down to Antarctica.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, I questioned. I said, "What's down? If there's nothing down there, what are you going there?" Go ahead.
About this. John Kerry went down there on Election Day. Very strange. And I'm sure there's tons of people that go there. Where are these ships going that are going way outside the area, of our known Earth? So if we're a pond, right? You can't fall off a pond. If you're on a lake and you're on a boat and you go to the edge, you're not going to fall off. You step up onto the land. That's what happens here. You get to the edge of the ocean, you're on the land. What's out there? We don't know. What if there's other ponds? What if there's other ponds just thousands of miles away? Okay, well, with other worlds. Now think about this.
I'm going to let you finish with this, but we're going to segue with that into something else that I want to discuss with you. Go ahead.
Real quick. So if there's extra land, and again, we don't know. I am speculating. We just want the right to go explore beyond 60 degrees south. And if there's more land, you might call that extra land, extra territory. So if somebody lived on the extra terra and they came to visit us on the inner space, they might be considered an extraterrestrial from the outer space.
Well, that's fascinating that you mentioned that, because this is what I wanted to touch on here with you, is that I think that you had mentioned, maybe it was you, maybe it was the other fellow with the 200, reasons the Earth is flat. But I believe that somewhere it was mentioned about the book, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Have you heard of that? With Bart Sibrel.
Yeah.
I had Bart on my show several years ago.
Yep.
And what's funny to me is that the space exploration, which they've sent all of these, all the explorers, whatever they call those, to Mars, right? Now, I've heard rumor, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know, that Mars isn't really red. It's actually green, and it actually has water on it. Now, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, let me unwind it a little bit. Mars, when you look at it and you do actual math and look at the light and the brightness of the thing and the light in the sky that we call Mars, there's no possible way that that's a terra firma rock floating, 40 million miles away. It's a light within our atmosphere, which is a whole other topic. Graphics help on that, imagery, videos. But we were doing some research ourselves, and on Google Earth camera, we found Mars rovers in Greenland. What's the name of the island? I'm just spacing on the name of the island. There's a very remote island up near Greenland where they're taking pictures pretending to be on Mars. Mars, we have a rover the size of a Volkswagen Bug that has a solar panel on a dusty planet, right, with a distant sun. Those solar panels, they're dirty one day, they're washed off the next picture, they're dirty. That's not how solar panels work. That's not how it would work. There's no possible way that there's a rover on Mars. Devon Island is the name of the island. And we have tons of videos on it. So to say, hey, they're hiding imagery, that Mars is really green. No, Mars is not even a place. Mars is a fantasy made up by NASA. The only pictures you have on Mars are by two people, by two businesses, which are the same, Disney and NASA. And right now, Disney's more credible than NASA.
Okay.
It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. In my videos, when I'm talking about planets, I show you what Mars really looks like. Our consumer optics have outgrown their lies, right? We can see things that they didn't want us to see.
Okay, we got another break coming up. 3 minutes. Hold that thought. We'll be back in 3. Michael Herzog, National Intel Report with my special guest, David Weiss. Stick around. We're going to be discussing a whole lot more intricate stuff, even though I'm not a scientist or a physicist. Be right back. folks. We're back with the National Intel Report. Michael Herzog, your host, along with my special guest, David Weiss. Now, David, I want you to continue with this Mars rover thing, but I'm going to segue into a couple of things that kind of relate to that. Some red flags that I actually saw, which I want to bring to your attention. But go ahead and continue, my friend.
Well, I kind of said it all. Like, we found that they do the training for the Mars rover in this remote island called Devon Island. And we actually have pictures from Devon Island that match the pictures on Mars. Like, they somehow leaked the same picture before they took out the clouds and turned everything orange. Okay, and
I
maybe
see.
that, yeah.
Okay.
And the Globers say, oh, no, they took the Mars picture and added blue sky and clouds to it. But, I mean, the desperation is so.
Well, I've seen that in the past, but a couple of red flags that I saw, and I'll bring to your attention.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether I saw this on NASA's website or whatever, but I have seen, for example, I saw a Barack Obama speech. Now, according to popular belief, we went to the moon in 1969. JFK said, "Oh, we're going to go to the moon, because we can't, we something along those lines." Anyway, I saw a speech with Barack Obama. Just watched it the other night, and I can't find it to save my life now. But in there, he basically admits that this Orion project, which I'm sure you've heard of, that they are working on technology to break the Van Allen belts.
They
right?
can't get past low Earth orbit. The Orion project is working on getting through these dangerous bands of radiation. When the astronauts from the Apollo missions were interviewed, they didn't even know about these things. And the information is so ridiculous. The Van Allen radiation belts is, in my opinion, the firmament, okay, which is the dome.
Let me continue. And I also ran across a couple of clips, and I believe they've now been scrubbed. This is a few years ago, before the censorship took place. But I ran across a very bizarre statement made by somebody that was up high level in NASA. I don't remember his name right now because it's been 2-3 years. But he basically answered a question that they had the technology to go to the moon in 1969, and they indeed went to the moon, but they lost all that technology, so they have to start over again. That's pretty much verbatim what he said. Go ahead.
Don Pettit, who, if you look at him, not to make fun of his intelligence, but he's not intelligent. When you look at airline pilots or fighter pilots and stuff, they're the best of the best, top shape, right? Look at astronauts; they're frumpy, they're out of shape, most of them, and they talk like they have very low IQ levels. Okay. I think there's different types of astronauts, some that know and some that are brainwashed to think that they're going into space. Nobody's gone to space because space doesn't exist. Don Pettit's exact quote was, "We lost the technology and it's a painful process to build it back again." Okay?
Okay, that poses the question, how in the world, when have you ever heard of them ever losing technology? Because they've used it against us all through their agenda throughout history. Go ahead.
They lost the technology. They lost all of the film, all of the reels, like thousands of reels of film. They lost all of the images. They have some of the images. They lost all of the navigation data. And there was only one woman that did it by hand with a pencil, and she's no longer with us. Okay, they lost all of it, right? Because they never had it, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me fast forward here just a little bit, because first of all, let me preface this by asking you, as far as your consensus goes, all of the rest of the alleged planets, whether it be Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, whatever, they're non-existent. Is that correct?
Well, that's not fair to say. The idea of what NASA and Disney show you, that's not real. Think about this. So, and this is from NASA. Like, we're on the Earth and we look at the sun. The sun is about the size of a dime or a nickel held in your hand at arm's length, right? It's a little small dot. But if you were on Jupiter, Jupiter is much farther away from the sun. NASA shows us how the sun would look from Jupiter. It looked like a large star, very, very small. So right. Jupiter, they tell us, is a gassy planet, a gray, gassy planet. Well, gases aren't really that reflective, less reflective than the moon, less reflective than Earth. Okay, so if you're on Jupiter or right at Jupiter, and you're looking at the small sun, you have to imagine that small sun is lighting up Jupiter. And then that light is reflecting off of Jupiter, going all the way back to Earth to your eye, and your naked eye sees a light in the sky that's as bright as the sun, go look at Jupiter. It's in the sky tonight. If you have a clear sky, Jupiter's up in the sky. It's literally one of the brightest stars in the sky right now, okay? And it's as bright as the sun. That makes no sense. If you understand the inverse square law of light, most people probably never even heard of that. Every time you double the distance to a light, it's 1/4 of the brightness because light spreads out, just like sound. Like if you and I were in a room talking, great, you can hear me. If you were a mile away, you couldn't hear me because the sound spreads out, gets weaker and weaker. Light does the same thing, gets weaker and weaker. So it is scientifically, provably, unquestionably impossible for light to be bouncing off of a gassy planet or a shiny planet and traveling all the way back to Earth and us seeing at the brightness we see it. So that doesn't tell me what it is. It tells me what it isn't.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, I want to touch just for a moment or two because I looked at some of these, and these NASA clips that they have, they show the globe, they show the Earth, up in the, in the cosmos, if you will, and they have pictures, and you put the pictures side by side, and they really are different, but they have a cloud formations going all across the planet, right? And what's interesting that I noticed is these clouds, some of these clouds look identical as they supposedly peruse their way around the planet. How is that possible?
Yeah, but it's called Photoshop. So the one that you're referring to is the blue marble that was on everyone's iPhone when the first iPhones came out, and it was created by a guy named Robert Simon, who's a NASA visual artist, and he talked about how he got data. Oh, this data says there's more plankton here, so he made the water bluer or greener. And this is a dry area, so I made it look like a desert. And he said, I hit Command Z a lot, right? He admits he made it from Photoshop. NASA admits they don't have any photographs of Earth other than supposedly the one they took from the moon in 1971, I think. And that one is ridiculous because there's another one that they supposedly took has the same cloud formations, like years apart, right? The same shot, a different shot of Earth with the same clouds wrapped on it. They're lazy, stupid, or just laughing at us. I'm not sure.
Okay, so with that in mind, I know that the NASA photography, in showing a picture of the Earth with these clouds that look identical in some of the in some of the frames. Okay, but their photography shows stars. Now, I recall watching an interview with, I think it was Neil Armstrong before he passed away. It might have been Buzz Aldrin, And by the way, their actions were very bizarre. But I remember them distinctly being asked the question about the stars, and they both claimed there was none.
You're remembering that from the press conference after they landed on the moon, and they looked like men that didn't just achieve the greatest feat in all mankind. They should have been pumped up, jumping up and down. They looked like somebody told them that their dog was just shot. Okay, they looked nervous. Right, and they couldn't get their story straight. But over the years, when we were talking to International Fake Station, astronauts, sometimes they say, "Oh yeah, we see stars. Oh, you don't see stars. Oh, you can see stars. You can't." They can't get their story straight, and it's because either they're dumb, or they're joking. They're just mocking us with how ridiculous these stories are. The problem is they can't show us the stars because we can do the calculus and say that's impossible. How did you see the star? The famous shot of Earth is called Earthrise from the moon. Earthrise from the moon. That means that the Earth is on the horizon from the astronaut's point of view. Well, guess what? All of the landing spots were on the side of the moon that faces Earth, if there was a globe. So the only place the Earth would be was directly above their head. It would never, ever be on the horizon. Okay? Take a picture of the sun at noon and get the horizon in the same shot. You can't do it. And that's how the Earth would be. It would always be close to noon above them on the moon. So they can't even get their story straight. But the problem is the American people, the whole world, the whole population of the world are lazy. They want to believe. Most people are good people, and they can't imagine a lie this big. They can't imagine that this big of a deception, and they also can't imagine why. Okay?
Well, can I answer that question?
Please.
Because I theorized on this last night, and I thought, okay, and this is just my own conclusion. Why would they lie about this? And by the way, folks, I'm not saying that they are at this point. I'm saying, why would they? And here's the answer that I came up with. It's the same answer that the military-industrial complex has when they walk us into all these wars and they use it for billions of dollars. Currently, it's Ukraine, it was Vietnam, it was all these wars. Okay, but in the space race, it was like 9/11. They got all of the public around them, hyping them all up to go attack Saddam Hussein, because the nuclear weapon, we want to get them over there before they bring them over here, blah, blah, blah. But for 6 years, I'm talking about after Kennedy made that speech, for 6 long years, they were pumping money into these contractors, to NASA, to Lockheed Martin, to all of these contracts. There was billions and billions and billions of dollars being made with the support of the American people. And also, I believe that it was a form of distraction from what was going on in the Vietnam War. Would you concur with that, David?
Well, as you know, the Vietnam War was a fake war, a real war, but on fake reasons. And when they discovered, when in the 40s and 50s, they started, the people that are running this world, which aren't the real controllers of this world. The real controllers, I believe, come from the outer lands or elsewhere. And they discovered Antarctica isn't a continent at the bottom of the ball. The Antarctic Treaty goes into place immediately, and they go, we're going to the moon. Quick, Antarctic Treaty, we're going to the moon. Don't look over there, look up there. A place that you can never go, you can never measure, you can never verify, and you're just going to have to believe a bunch of liars that tell you stuff about it. So, you understand from your opening of the show that the people of this world are trying to control us, right? They're trying to control us in the biggest way. What's a better way to control people by putting them into the matrix? What do I mean by that? The matrix is the heliocentric model. It's the globe. It's a prison for your mind, okay? You can't get off the globe, There's nowhere else to go. You're on this globe. We're running out of water. We're running out of food. We're overpopulated, global warming, all of this nonsense. None of it is true. All of the families in America could have a quarter acre in Texas, and the rest of America would be empty. The entire world, every family could have, I think, an acre in Australia, and Australia wouldn't even be full. Okay, overpopulation is nonsense. We're not running out of oil. Oil is abiotic. It's made by the earth. We shouldn't even be using it because there's free energy everywhere, right? You understand about energy being pulled out of the earth, right? And the ether. Have you looked into that at all?
No, I know about Nikola Tesla and the fact that he had developed through his research free energy, and I think it was Thomas Edison, maybe, was it, that and a number of the cohorts that shut him down because they said we can't do that, okay?
Right,
because
you can't bill for it. Free,
right?
It's essentially free energy. Imagine if you had something the size of a roll of quarters that would heat and cool your house for the next 100 years, and you never needed to replace it. And you had another one that ran your car. So now you don't need gas, you don't need oil, you don't need electricity. Would that free up your life a little bit? They have us working in their slave system with their fake money to control us. We're the serfs of the elite. They want us not understanding who we are. Before you mentioned that Professor Dave, not a Professor Dave, is an atheist. All of the big globe trolls, I call them the anti-flat earthers, they all tout the same thing. You must get injected in your arm. God is not real. Science is real. Believe us, the earth isn't flat. They all tout the same line, right? Because there's a quote in the Bible and other religious books that basically says, once you see my creation, you can no longer deny my existence. I denied the creator my entire life, believed in evolution. I believed the whole thing. But then when I started researching flat earth, I realized, oh my God, this place is intelligently designed. Therefore, there's a creator. I can't deny it if I want. Now, who the creator is, what's my relationship, that's my own personal journey, and I never tell anyone which direction to go. I think everyone that has a relationship with the creator is going in the right direction.
Well, let's explore that for just a moment, because and again, don't quote me on this, but if it seems to me, folks, I'm grabbing this off the top of my head from years of stuff, and I'm an old guy now, so my brain cells aren't as great as they used to be, but it seems to me like there's a number of references in the Bible itself that alluded to a flat Earth. Am I right in that?
So I did the Flat Earth podcast with my co-host Matt Long, who comes from the Bible side, and there's on my app. I have an app which I want to talk about in a moment. there's the biblical button, and there's over 200 proofs in the Bible about a flat Earth. From page 1, God separated the waters from the waters and created the firmament. You can make up excuses all you want, but the firmament is the dome, and we have water above us and water below us, and that's provable. It's called primary water, something they don't teach you in school. That water exists. We can access it. Gaddafi found it. Okay. And that's why he's no longer with us. It wasn't,
that's one of the reasons.
That's one of the reasons, right?
Yeah.
Right. So understanding what this place is, you understand that, everyone listening, everything you have in your life is the way that you think. You create your reality. They don't want us to know that. They want you to think that you have to work, get injected, save your money, and then enjoy it when you're too old and unhealthy, and then you die, right? When in reality, we have incredible manifestation powers. We have incredible abilities, and nobody has control over us other than in our imagination. They steer our mind with the news. Listen to this: news, north, east, west, south, NEWS. And they give us the headlines, the worry lines in our head, okay? And the news does nothing but make you sick and control your mind, right? Once you understand that, and then, I'm going to say something that's going to take us down a whole nother rabbit hole. I don't want to go there. Nuclear bombs don't exist, and we have them running backwards right now. Neil deGrasse Tyson came out just the other day on the Bill Maher show saying, hey, nuclear bombs aren't radioactive anymore because we've proven that they're not. Okay, and that they don't really exist. A whole nother rabbit hole. I can tell you where to get more information.
Well, yeah, you might want to do that because that's
real quick. We're
going to go to a break in a minute, so go ahead.
I can do it real fast. Right. Crow 777 Radio, CRROW777radio.com, episode 053 and episode 400. If you take the time to listen to those 2 hours of audio, you will know that nuclear bombs don't exist. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. 3 days later, the trains were running, the sandwich shops were open, they were selling flowers on the street, and everyone was back to work. There's video of them setting up skids and skids and skids of TNT at Ground Zero. Okay? And nobody was allowed to report on it.
Wait. You said CRROW?
Yeah, 2 R's in Crow. CRROW777radio.com. And you can get the first hour of each of those episodes for free. And that'll give you enough information, but I highly recommend getting the full episode. It's actually, once you hear it, and again, don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything Crow says. Go verify it yourself. But once you go and verify, then that's how you become an awake aware.
All right, we're going to take another break here. We'll be back in 3 with my special guest David Weiss. Wow, this is fun. Stick around, more to come. I'll open up the phone lines top of the hour, folks. Be right back.
Came and took it all away.
All right, folks, we're back with the National Intel Report. Now, David, before the break, we were talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and you had mentioned that 3 days afterward, the shops were open and all this stuff. But you had also mentioned that they were planning who planted the dynamite here? I
got to go back and listen to who it was. I think it was, there was troops. I'm not sure if they were American troops or whoever they were, but. Mm-hmm. You have to understand that all of these wars, all of these major wars are set up. You know about the Gulf of Tonkin. You talked about that earlier. Think about the Cold War. How many battles were there? How many people died? 0. Okay? It's all about keeping everybody scared. It's all about taking our energy. NASA
it's also all about the military-industrial complex reaping billions and billions in profits because and I've read this in the past, that literally our entire economy is propped up to a degree on a perpetual war somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. And NASA gets $65 million a day. They don't really get that money. They just take it from us. I think NASA might get like $10,000 a month. Maybe that's why they do stuff so horrible. I mean, if you watch my interview videos or watch the videos on the app, the NASA videos, there's so many screw-ups, green screens revealing themselves, wires getting tangled in wires. You catch them hanging from wires once on the space station, you can unwind it to we've never gone to space. There's not a single video of the space station being built in space. China just put one up like less than a year ago, and they also forgot to film it being constructed. It just showed up. And their stuff is ridiculous, worse than NASA. Unbelievable. Like they were doing an experiment the other day, and they had a glass of water sitting on the counter in space, a glass of water. Okay? and then when you hear the Globey excuses, it's unreal. I think they do that. I go back and forth. Like, they're doing it just because the people that we already know, and they're just yanking our chains. And then the other people that, don't want to use their God-given brain power, they just will believe anything they're told.
Well, the way, I learned a long time ago, I did a stint for 20 years in the insurance business, and I learned through training that the biggest two motivating factors, were fear and greed in that business. Well, the politicians, the powers that be, they use fear more than anything. Fear of nuclear war. They're using that right now. Okay,
Absolutely.
and the fact that this administration, it's been said that they think they can win a nuclear war. Well, okay, that continues to escalate the fear. It continues to perpetuate the fear in society, along with the jab. Okay, which leads me into, I want your take on this. Recently, and I'm sure you're aware of this, somebody bombed the Georgia Guidestones. Okay, you remember that, right?
I think that's all part of a ritual. And the reason was, some people are saying it's my fault because in all the interviews I do, there's a little hole in the center stone on the Georgia Guidestones. And when you look through it, what do you see? You see Polaris, our North Star. Okay. We're corkscrewing through space, traveling 4.5 billion miles a year, never to return to where we were before. And somehow Polaris never moves. Right. And then, the Globey argument is, it's so far away that those billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of miles don't matter. It just stays there. The problem is they have to deal with precession. Precession is, we have the great year. I think it's 26,000 years. Are we running out of time?
Yeah, we're going to the top of the hour break. And I'll let you finish your thought. We're going to open phone lines. Go ahead.
We would have every 60 years or 72 years, it would have precessed a degree. And it's been over 40 years. It's a half a degree. There's no way Polaris would have been in that hole, but it's still there. And now it's at the point where we can't do it, where we can prove it.
All right, we've got to take a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Phone lines are open, 512-248-8252 if you have a question or a comment. Be right back.
We're on our way down.
All right, folks, we're back. Second hour of the National Intel Report with my special guest, David Weiss. Now, David, the phone lines are I already knew this was going to happen. The phone lines are already loaded. But I wanted but before I go to the phones, I want to ask you, in accordance with your opinion, the Georgia Guidestones, it said reducing the population to 500 million. Now, it looks like that's their intent with the jab, with the wars and all that sort of thing. But why? Because if they love controlling us so much and lying to us, if they eliminate 7/8 of the population, they won't have anybody to lie to and laugh at.
Well, I actually don't think the population number that they give us is real. I think the population of the Earth is far, far less than what they tell us. That's another thing that you can go and actually look at it, and you'll probably come up with the same conclusion. So the other thing is when people, I believe, now this is me from my research, that every once in a while people learn too much. They reset everybody. They destroy the place, and then everyone's just scrounging, and everyone forgets. I mean, people forget everything over a very short period of time.
Right. Yeah, we know we have short memories. Okay, I'm going to go to the...
Hold on. Before we go, just a quick plug, flatearthdave.com. All my links are there. The first one is my app. It's $3. If you want to learn about Flat Earth, you're not going to do it on the internet. It's the best $3 you ever spent. Go to the App Store, go to the Google Play Store, and just read the reviews, okay? And don't buy the app. Just read the reviews. Tons of information there, and then you, too, can isolate yourself from your family and friends because you'll be a flat earther. And the other thing is Friday, November 11th and 12th, we have the first virtual Flat Earth. It's called the True Earth Mount Meru Online Summit. True Earth Mount Meru Summit, TEMMS.live. We have Amanda Vollmer, Dave Murphy. We have Eddie Bravo, Owen Benjamin, Alex Stein, Peggy Hall, Jaron Campanella, David Avocado Wolf, a whole bunch of others, Sean Hibbler. Amazing speakers. It starts Friday afternoon. It goes all the way through Saturday night. Amazing. And you can get 50% off with a coupon code. Just go to flatearthdave.com. Everything's right there.
All right. With that, we're going to go to the phones. We got loaded phone lines. We got Neil, Renee, John, Rick, and Fred. We're going to start with Fred. Folks, all of you hang on. I promise I'll get to all of you. Fred and I, you're on with David Weiss. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah. why I like Herzog is he'll take on controversial subjects, and I don't have to be a parrot caller to agree with the host. I am an ex-pilot. I owned a Cessna Cardinal 177, and so I flew the damn thing wherever I wanted to, and I taught myself night landings. They had Vossi there, but I won't go into all that. David, what do you hope to accomplish with your view?
So thanks for the call. So the answer is, with all the stuff going on in the world, why am I talking about flat Earth? There's so many other things. The truth is, we can never take our world back if you don't know where your world is. If you don't know who you are, where you are, the true power of your mind. If you believe all of the nonsense that they tell you, you're lost in space, and you literally give up your control. Your true God-given control. They tell you in school you only use 90% or 10% of your brain and 2% of your DNA. That's nonsense. That's what they want. They don't want you connecting with nature and with higher source. As far as being an airplane pilot, pilots said, "Oh, we can see the curve," but then we show you you're actually just seeing in a radius. And now science says, Neil deGrasse Tyson, they say even our balloons that we send up to 120,000 feet, which show the horizon at eye level and flat, it's not high enough. It's not high enough. They keep moving the globe post higher and higher and higher. Airplanes fly straight and level over the Earth plane.
Well, I'll readily admit my worldview comes from the Word, the Bible, and that affects my action, my thoughts, and everything I do. I am no saint and don't claim to be.
Fred, if you go, I don't know if you have a smartphone or anything, but if you have my app and hit the biblical button, or if you go to my website and send me a message, I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link to the biblical playlist. Amazing. It'll blow your mind how much stuff in the Bible talks about a flat, level, unmoving Earth.
Yeah, I got your website up right now. And like missionaries, take your word, take the word to the four corners of the earth. But I want to know what you psychology or whatever, what motivates people. Anyhow, I won't take up any more of the time because there's a lot of callers probably. Bye-bye.
And Fred, send me find the contact button and ask me for the biblical playlist. And what motivates me? Well, what motivates me is we are the beneficiaries of this creation, and people are just walking around as slaves, as NPCs. They don't know who they are, where they are. They don't know what's going on. And when you unplug, it's amazing. We just had a conference down in South Carolina, around hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of awake, aware people. The energy was amazing, right? So if everyone woke up, if everyone in the world listened to this podcast, all the governments in the world are done. They're fleas on a in a field. You won't even know where they are. Because nobody will pay attention to them. The only reason governments have power is because we give it to them.
All right, Fred, thanks a lot. Yeah, the phone lines are absolutely loaded here, David. So let's go. Try to take 2 to maybe 3 minutes apiece for the calls. So next we'll go to Rick in South Carolina. Rick, you're on with Michael and David. Go ahead. Hello, Rick.
Oh yeah, hey.
Rick.
How you doing?
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Rick, we were just in Greenville, South Carolina at a conference.
Man, you should have told me. I would have been there. I first found out about the flat Earth because I heard that Rob Skiba was going to be at this Bible meeting in Dallas, Texas, and I thought, what a crazy guy saying that the Earth is flat. This was in 2014. So I was looking forward to meeting him, so I met him there. And I'm standing with a group of my friends there, and I said, "Are you seriously think that the Earth is flat? That's the most crazy idea I've ever heard." So he immediately backed away and said, No. I said, "I'm just asking questions." So I had a guy there that I had met, and he worked in the Antarctic. So I said to Rob, I said, "Why don't you come over here and talk to this guy? He works in the Antarctic every season for the United States government. He's just over here." But Rob didn't want to do that. What I found is that most flat earthers are the most unreasonable people I've ever met, and they don't know anything about mathematics or geometry or trigonometry or anything like that. And so it's very hard to discuss anything with them because they're not open-minded. But I have 6 or 7 or 8 proofs that the Earth is flat. What I start off with is I've flown around the world several times. Unlike you or most flat earthers, they've never, left their backyard. If they grew up in America, that's all they've ever seen. But I've traveled around the world. I mean, there's hardly any continents I haven't been on.
Well,
in Hobart, Tasmania, where I lived for many years, in fact, my mother still lives there, in the middle of summer, in January, you can actually see the sun rise south of due east. You can look due east, and you can see the sunrise south of due east.
Yep.
And what I've done for many years, since 2014, is I brought many people out of the Flat Earth Society, and I got them to realize that the Earth is a sphere.
Well,
and
none of us are in.
You don't have to go to space. You don't have to go to space to see the shape of the Earth, because there's a dozen ways that you can prove the shape of the Earth with just basic, simple mathematics. And so there is what I've offered.
Give me time to respond
to
him.
$100 for anybody to prove to me that they have a map of the flat Earth drawn to scale. And no one in all these years has been able to show me one map that they all believe that the Earth is flat. They don't show me one map that the Earth is flat.
They use the azimuthal equidistant map to all navigation. No one takes a globe into a cockpit and uses it, and that's a fact. Okay, so that's how it's done.
You give me a flat Earth map.
Hold on. Let me respond to your stuff. Let him go, and let me respond. He said he had 7 flat Earth proofs. There's a Freudian slip. I think he meant globe Earth proofs, but maybe his subconscious got to him. And he said he's flown around the world, been to every continent. Absolutely. Look at this. You got your pond, and the north is in the center of the pond. So we got a magnet in the center of the pond. You got all your islands spread out through the pond, and now you're going to use your compass, and you're going to try to go east or west. East and west are circles around that magnetic north, right? The compass arm points to the right. You try to go 90 degrees to that, and you're going to have to keep turning to the right when you're going west and turning to the left when you're going east. And that'll bring you right back to where you started from. This does not prove the Earth is flat because it's the same on a globe. The problem is when you get into the southern hemisphere, everyone still turns in the same direction, when on a globe, you'd have to turn the other way. 0 people have circumnavigated south. 0. Billions have gone east and west. Okay? So circumnavigation proves the Earth is flat, period. And to say that we're not good with math, we have amazing people with math, but math is not reality. I have the math that shows you that I have an amusement park on an island in the South Pacific. I have all the plans, I have all the calculations, the stresses on the roller coasters and everything. Doesn't mean that it exists. Math describes whatever you want it to describe.
Okay, we got to let you go, Rick. Thanks for the input. I appreciate that. We got loaded phone lines, and I don't mean to keep cutting people short here, but I want to fit everybody in. So let's go to John in northern Michigan. John, you're on with David Weiss. Go ahead.
I'd just like to share a story that a 9-year-old man told me. He belongs to an auto club up here, and they meet once a month. And a person in the club is a former astronaut, and he supposedly went to the moon, and he questioned the fact about the way the flag movement on the photos or film when there's not supposed to be any gravity there, and all the astronaut did was say yes. Pardon me?
Not supposed to be any wind. There's gravity there. You're talking about wind.
Right. Well, okay. Well, whatever the answer was, is he didn't give an answer. He just said right or no, one or the other, whichever would make. No,
you look at astronauts' behaviors when they're asked questions, and it's beyond telling.
Right. So I just wanted to share that film that we saw was fabricated according to this answer that he got.
Very good. And Buzz Aldrin, when asked by a little girl, how come we haven't gone back, and he said, because we never went.
There you go.
Buzz Aldrin actually hit Bart Sibrel in the mouth when Bart Sibrel challenged him.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Anything else you want to add before I let you go, John?
No, it's just an interesting concept because we need some sort of interest in something other than this travesty we're dealing with now with all these evil Satanists.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call. All right. Let's next go to Renee in North Carolina. Renee, you're on with David Weiss. Go ahead.
Well, I am so glad that I found out that, because I've stopped listening to RBN, but when I happened to check it last week and y'all said that y'all were going to do this show, because kudos to you, because so much of it is just one point of view, unchallenged, conservative, right-wing propaganda, and nobody puts on some people with really dissenting views. And so this is the best show to me that's been on RBN in years, and because it's going to make people think and question. And David's a smart guy, and so the thing is, I like what he has to say, and this is why. If this would turn out to be true and we could prove it, it's our best shot at freedom. Exactly. From government and stuff. And that's why I want this to be true. And what makes me mad at so many Christians, how, they go on and on about how they believe in the Bible. I love to nail them like this. And kudos to you, John, if you're in the queue for last week, piping up and being a real Christian, saying, I believe in flat earth without reservation, without embarrassment. Because people say they believe in the Bible, and they go on and on about it. And so I'll go, oh, so you believe in flat earth? Well, no. They start backing up. So the thing is, what if all these people put so much energy into a serial adulterer, red-headed con man with the money and energy? What if those same Christians who supposedly believe in the word of the Bible had put that much energy, time, and money into proving that the earth is flat? I mean, somebody like David and people like him, there would be funding for expeditions, experiments, research, all kinds of stuff. The thing is, what makes me angry is the people who claim so much to believe it still cling to the globe. And so, like I said, I want this to be true because, like I said, like he talked about earlier, it's our best shot at freedom if we could prove this.
Hey, Renee, wanting something to be true, that's okay, but not letting that bias your view. The Globers say there's millions of proofs of the globe and zero proofs of flat Earth. The absolute opposite is true. We can see too far. You can't have high pressure next to low pressure. Seasons without a barrier, without a physical barrier. Seasons prove the Earth is flat. Once you understand what you're told, all of this stuff. There's so many proofs. There's an abundance of proofs, and there's zero for the globe. And the proof of that is, for 3 years now, I've been offering 3 Bitcoins for 1 globe proof, and so far nobody can come up with one. Not even where we get into an argument about it. We're like, we're arguing nothing. They've got nothing. The only thing they have is debunks of flat Earth.
I agree. There's more proof for what you say than there is the globe. One thing that convinced me years ago was like, they always told us how the mariners in the oceans and stuff navigated by using the stars, just like your argument about the star you mentioned previously. Yep. Well, how could they? It has to be stationary if they used it to navigate. How could they be navigating by the stars if we were swirling and spinning through Earth? Nothing up there would be stationary. That would have been impossible. Am I right, David?
Renee, I want everyone listening to do this. Go out tonight, go to a specific spot in your yard, and take a picture of the stars. And then put a note in your calendar for next year and every year on the same date and the same time with a little alarm telling you to go out and take the same picture and then compare them. Every single star will be in the exact same position no matter how long you do it. Okay? We're corkscrewing through space in 4 different directions, spiraling billions and billions of miles, and none of the stars ever change. Sorry, that doesn't work for me.
All right, Renee.
Exactly. It doesn't work for me either.
Thank you, Renee.
Hold it. Yeah, Renee, thank you for the compliment. I sincerely appreciate it. I got to let you go, honey, because the calls are lined up here. So, again, I appreciate it. Let's next go to Neil in Boston. Neil, you're on with David Weiss. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling because a couple things. I'm just going to, rattle off my my points. First of all,
let's do them one at a time. You give me a point, and then I'll respond. And I'll be fast.
So basically, I'm on your side, number one. A couple of years ago, I had a phone app that was it was a weather app that wrapped around the globe, and it would always go over I got curious, you know what I mean? So, and I heard about flat Earth or whatever. So back then, I'm like, oh, that's crazy, right? So it's like, all right, go over the North Pole. I'm in Russia on the weather app. It's like a ball, right? And I would go south towards Chile and Australia, and I could not get through the South Pole. Just couldn't.
Right.
Could not. As much as I tried. And I was like, that is just weird. All right, so that was like, okay.
Let me give a quick thing for people to do. Go on the web version of Google Earth, and then get the line drawing tool and draw some squares around the different countries. It'll draw a square and tell you the square, the mileage. It'll tell you the square mileage. Then draw a square around the North Pole or around Antarctica and watch what happens. It won't let you draw a square. It turns it literally into a crescent moon. The craziest thing. They're hiding both of those places from us. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. So, second thing is, a couple of years ago, my wife and I, we started. I literally live in like the city of Boston, and we have a mutual friend who owns a place on Martha's Vineyard, and so this is, I swear, like a year ago. I'm on the beach and basically facing Boston, and I was just enjoying my day, and I had sunglasses, like good sunglasses.
Okay,
on.
Neil, you're sitting there facing. Okay,
listen,
we got to go to a break.
I could see the skyline
hold on.
of Boston.
Neil, hold on. We got a break coming up. Did I hear the music, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah. We got a break coming up. I'll hold you over, Neil. You can finish that thought. So hold it. We'll be back in 3. Chris Steiner, you're up next. So don't leave me. We'll be back in 3. Michael Herzog with David Weiss. Stick around. More to come, folks. All right, folks, we're back with the National Intel Report. We've got Neil in Boston. He was in Boston. So, Neil, finish up real quick because, again, my phone lines are loaded. Go ahead with your story, buddy.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, so, again, I was on, like, vacation on Provincetown, which is proximity to Boston. Like, if you look on the map, is really far away. But there's, like, a straight shot line where you could hypothetically, you could look right at the city. So, believe it or not, from Provincetown, which is miles and miles away, and I was on the beach, and I was wearing really good sunglasses, and I wasn't even thinking about flat Earth or anything like that. I was just, like, enjoying my day, and I'm like, oh, my God, I couldn't see everything clearly, the Prudential Tower, for instance. But I could see the skyline. I know the skyline like the back of my hand. And I was floored. And I walked a couple hundred yards to I picked a direction. I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So I went and I looked and I found it again, and there it was. And it wasn't one of those things where it was like Doppler, where
it wasn't a mirage. We have the same thing across Lake Michigan where we can see Chicago 50 miles, and they
right.
claim it's a mirage. So 2 of our guys, one of them being Rob Skiba, got in a boat, put it in the camera lens, and then went 50 miles across the lake, keeping it in the lens the whole time, which 100% proves it was not a mirage. Same thing with Boston. We have these observations. People don't realize just at 10 miles there should be 66 feet of curvature, okay? 66 feet of curvature. A 6-foot-tall person standing at the edge of calm water should not be able to see the surface of the water beyond 3 miles because there's a 6-foot drop at 3 miles. So when you watch the sunset, you would have to see the sun going behind an edge that's only 3 miles away from you. That's not what we see, okay? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it. Got to let you go, buddy. Got a whole bunch of loaded phone lines. Got a break coming up here in about 4 minutes. But I want to bring up Chris Steiner, who's also a host on this network, David. Chris, you got a question for Dave?
Exactly. What you just mentioned is that the curvature of the Earth's allegedly 7.98 inches per mile squared. And I just wanted to mention that a good friend of mine who was a surveyor, for large projects, building things like bridges and long roadways. I asked him about that, and by the way, neither he or I are involved in flat earthing, or I know he isn't, but I've looked into it a little bit, and I'm an agnostic, just to mention that. But I just want to let you know that when I asked him about that, he said, "Oh, we don't really use that rule." So I just wanted to ask if you wanted to comment on that, if you wanted to add anything, any other instances where it's accepted, where it should be applied.
Yeah. So a lot of people say, well, the Verrazano Bridge, the two stanchions are leaning away from each other. That's how they build it. Okay, if you look at the bottom of the Verrazano, the water underneath the bridge, it's completely flat. I mean, that to believe that is just ridiculous. And the other thing is, geodetic surveyors, they pre-assume a ball at a certain rate. They take a measurement, and because the horizon is optical, it changes all the time. And if that measurement falls within a predicted range, they keep it. If it falls out of that range, like more flat, they toss it out. And they take all of these numbers, and they only keep the ones that fit in their pre-assumed ball, and they throw out all the other ones that say it's flat. And that's how they come up with their surveying. It's ridiculous.
Is there anything, any information that in particular that you think that I could refer him to?
The best place is on my app or on my website. There's tons of information there. On my app, I have the frequently asked questions, and there's a section called "We Can See Too Far" and "Boats Over the Horizon." Amazing videos there that you won't be able to find on YouTube because they're hidden. You can search for them by name, but they won't show up. The app bypasses the YouTube algorithm.
All right, great. Thank you much. Take care.
Hey, thank you for the call, Chris. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to break coming up here in about a minute, 2 minutes, but we're going to go to Kim in San Antonio and then John in BC and then John in Oklahoma. So, Kim, you're up first. I'll take you through the break if we go too long. Go ahead, Kim. You're on with David.
Hi. Hi there. Hi. I just wanted to say this is the most exciting and forward-thinking program I've ever heard on RBN. I've been a listener for 8 years. I've also been a flat earther since 2015. I've listened to David Weiss. I'm a subscriber to his app, which I think everyone should go and check out and subscribe to. It will answer so many of your questions. This is just an answer to many prayers, and I'm just thrilled to hear that, yes, we are able to handle the truth. And the truth is our Earth is flat, non-rotating, and taking people away from always making sure that they stay away from that flat Earth society. Just dismiss that because you're never going to get truth there. I just want to say thank you, and thank you, David, for continuing in the truth, and I just bless your heart. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. Well, okay. Let's go to. We got a break coming up in about a minute here, but let's go to. By the way, we're going to skip the last break, so we're going to have a half hour of open lines and conversation. So let's go to John in British Columbia, Canada first. John in Oklahoma, you'll be up next. So go ahead, John. Wait a minute, John. Hold that thought. We got a break coming up. I'm sorry, man. We'll be back in 3, and John in British Columbia, Canada, you'll be first up when we get back. I promise. Be right back. All right, folks, we're back with the National Intel Report. Michael Herzog, your host, my special guest, David Weiss. Now, remember, folks, at the beginning of this show, I said to interview well, I didn't say it, John Stadtmiller said, to interview exceptional guests, to provide critical thought, and to examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow you, the audience, to call in and participate. That's exactly what we're doing. With that, let's go to John in British Columbia, Canada. Thanks for holding, John. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi guys, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so Michael and David, so I have a sister that lives in Australia, and obviously I'm from Australia. So when it's daytime where I am in the west coast of Canada, it's quite often nighttime in Australia. On a flat Earth, how could that happen?
Yeah, so on the flat Earth, the sun is small and local, and it's very close to the Earth. So it's just moving away and taking its light with it. The light doesn't travel that far. And then because there's 3 layers, you have a celestial layer where the sun is, you have your atmospheric layer, and then you have our Earth layer, our terrestrial layer. And when you're looking across, like when you look up through clouds and through the air column, it's very thin, and you can see. But when you're looking across, everything merges into the horizon, and the sun's light just can't go there. We have tons of videos on the app that are how does the sun set, where does the sun go? Amazing. Once you see them, it'll click. So, you can go into a dark side of a building, and there's a light on the side of the building. That'll just light up just that portion of the building, and then 20, 30, 40 feet away, the building's dark. Okay, but you can still see the light from that area, but not when you have atmospheric layers. Once you see what's called terrestrial perspective, celestial perspective from a terrestrial vantage point, then you'll understand.
So I've got a question. How high is the sun above? So the Earth is dead flat. If it's water, it's like a level, right? So it's dead flat. So how high is the sun above the Earth?
Yeah, that's a great question. Nobody knows because you can't measure it, and people see it in different positions, so there's no way to triangulate it. The sun that we see, which I call the second sun, is an apparent sun that's in a unique position for each person viewing it.
That's not convincing, but anyway, I'll let that one go. I've got another one. So I've done a flight from Sydney, Australia, to Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, on a flat Earth model,
it's a longer route.
If I did a straight line, it would have me going over Asia. How does that work?
Well, it depends on which direction you go, but if you look at flight routes...
It's a straight line. It's a straight line. On a flat... I've got
no, I got you. I got you. I don't know which flight you're talking about, but the flights are the number one thing that we use to show you that the globe model is absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is, when you're watching where they tell you are, it's often wrong. Many times there's emergencies. We have a book called 16 Emergency Landings That Prove Flat Earth, where the flight has to land, and they went 2,000 miles off of their flight path to land somewhere, and they got there in 15 minutes. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. But when you look at it on a flat Earth map, that landing field is right on the straight line from the origin to the destination. There's so many of these things that happen. One just happened this year. It was mind-blowing, but they were flying over Russia. So a mother died, had to sit in the seat next to her children for 8 hours. And according to the flight route, there was like 100 different places they could have stopped, but they were over Russia the whole time, and they couldn't stop in Russia because that blows two scenarios. One, hey, they're not supposed to be over Russia. Two, Russia's supposed to be the bad guy. All right? But when you look at the emergency landings, all in the app, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then also, you don't know how fast these planes are going when they're over water. They have planes. The one that goes from Santiago to Australia, that one goes twice as fast as they tell you. There's only 4 pilots that fly it, and the plane itself has 7 layers of heat-resistant paint. What's up with that? Sounds like it's going a little faster than they tell us.
I'm not convinced, but I'm not going to take any more of your time, and I appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
You got it.
All right, thanks, John. I'll tell you what, second in line is going to be Joe in Oklahoma. So, Joe, I'll get to you. But let's go to John in Oklahoma first. John, you're on with Michael and David. What's your question and what's your comment, buddy?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
To preface my comment, my father took to the air in the 70s, and I took to the water in the 80s. And I can use my sextant, not because I had to, because I wanted to learn it, on the water, and the calculations are exactly the same 15,000 feet above. That makes no sense on a round globe.
Thank you. And you need a sextant needs a level line. How do you have a level line on a round globe?
Exactly. You must have the bubble, and that's where we use our level today in construction, and everything else was developed by the sextant. Okay, That being said, what do you believe on Admiral Byrd's private diary? I'm a history buff, and what led me to this was Admiral Byrd, the most decorated, youngest admiral ever appointed by the United States. You think they're going to give the Pacific Fleet to a puppy? And that's not going to happen. And all of a sudden, he has all these things to say about Antarctica and
then he dies in his sleep. And he dies in his sleep.
And he dies in his sleep. And the only way that this gets released is his son finds it. So, what's your view of his diary?
Well, whether it's real or not, the fact that he went out to Antarctica said there's land beyond the pole that's a problem on a globe, bigger than the United States, filled with resources, no humans, no animals, nothing. And then all of a sudden they have the Antarctic Treaty and we're going to the moon. Okay, that's a problem right there. That's a huge problem right there.
And then he talks about the hole in Antarctica, and there's another one in the Arctic, and I mean, there's so much. It's so much deeper than most people. And like I said, I'm a history buff, and this is what led me to this.
Right. If you look at one of his interviews, behind him in the interview is a giant map of the world, the azimuthal equidistant map with a clock on it, because we live in a clock. The hour hand goes around once every 24 hours. That's the sun. The moonth hand, which is the moon, goes around once every 28 days. Okay? And then the stars keep track of the seasons and the years. All of this is shown in my app. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. You can find it at flatearthdave.com.
Well, you can guarantee I'll be getting that app, because I'm that 90% that you were just talking about. I'm almost there, but I haven't quite got it all put together in my head yet.
Hey, don't believe that's good.
If these guys are willing, if these gentlemen are willing to put a admiralty online, and then they're hushed up and then die in their sleep, somebody knew something.
Right, and I'm glad that you're not all the way there. Don't just believe. Don't believe because you want it to be true. Don't believe because I said it. Go verify everything. That's what I did. I started seeing all these ships over the horizon things, and I was like, okay, and I ended up buying a P900 super zoom camera, spent $1,000, went down to the beach, sat on the water. I'm looking at a buoy 11 miles away. Round down to 10. There should be 66 feet of curvature. How am I seeing that buoy? How am I seeing people sitting on a beach 7 miles away across in Long Island? How am I seeing them? That's impossible.
If I was taking a 40-foot houseboat, literally from New Orleans to the west coast of Florida, and I could see the lights across the bay, and I could navigate by night by light. There's something that doesn't make sense.
Well, welcome to America, Joe.
yeah. Anyway, I just didn't want. I don't want to take up much of your time, but I want people to stop and think. There are people that are still adventurers out there. There's still a little testosterone left, and we've done these, and it doesn't make sense.
Anyway,
the amount of great show, guys. This is one of the best you've done in a long time, sir. I will be getting your app just so I can tell my friends you don't know what you're talking about.
And here's the other thing. When you become a flat earther, it's kind of hard to talk to what we call normies. On the app, there's the friend finder. You log into there. It shows you all of the other people that have the app around you, and you can message them. You can send out radius messages. You can set up group chat rooms, and you can find some new friends because you're going to need them.
Thank God for the Internet, because, where I live, the only friends I have is Bigfoot, bears, and cougars.
Yeah, Bigfoot knows the Earth is flat. So you got some good.
All right, John. Hey, thanks a lot for the call. Let's move on. All right, I appreciate the compliments today, folks. All right, let's go to Joe. Joe, thanks for waiting. Joe in Oklahoma, you're on with Michael and Dave. Go ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Am I on?
Yes, sure. You're on. Yes.
Oh, this is Joe in Alaska.
Oh, it's Joe. Well,
anyway.
Okay.
The 24-hour sun, Joe. Go ahead.
Yes. All right, go ahead.
No, I'm quite a ways south of the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
At any rate, my father was credited as being the first man to the North Pole, but I laughed at him and told him no. The Russians did it in 38 and 37, but. He also chaperoned Barry Goldwater to the South Pole. He was an accomplished flyer. He pioneered the use of skis on a DC-3 and established a floating station in the Arctic Ocean. Anyway. He's familiar with Byrd and Amundsen and the rest of those polar explorers. I just got to say, I guess you would term me a normie, although I didn't agree with my father on a lot of things.
So let me just throw in a little something here. how did your father know he was at the South Pole except somebody told him? Compasses don't work there, and GPS is run by NASA. So they can take you anywhere in the middle of this Arctic ice and go, oh, we're at the South Pole. Unless he could walk any direction away from the South Pole, and that would be north, that would be the only way you can prove it, but you can't. And he didn't, and because nobody has.
No, he used a slide rule, okay? Now, let me, I just want a comment from you. Are you a member of the Flat Earth Society?
Absolutely not. None of us are. The Flat Earth Society is a disinformation site, probably run by the government. Obama plugged the Flat Earth Society a half a dozen times in his speeches. He goes, we don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society, because he wants you to go there. Because if you go there, you will laugh at Flat Earth and never look at it again. Flat Earth Society is nonsense.
Well, I don't need to go there to laugh, but I had a purported SAS former British citizen who came down and sat next to me in the bar in Nome and started talking to me about the Flat Earth Society. And I had met him once before. But he came out there to do some gold mining, but that's a different story. I just kind of laughed him off, you know. Said,
the Flat Earth Society is laughable. I mean, the Flat Earth Society thinks that the Earth is rising up at 9.8 meters per second. That's absolutely insane, right? We have a very good explanation for gravity, something that we can test and show you. I show it in all my interviews. Check them out at flatearthdave.com, the interviews channel. And it shows you how it's electrostatics that make things go down. Down is down for me. Down is the same down for you. Someone in Australia, down is down, up is up. Okay? It's the same for everybody. We're not sticking to the outside of a spinning ball adjacent to a space vacuum. The heliocentric model is rocks and gas balls in space with a vacuum in between. Right? You can't have high pressure next to low pressure without a physical barrier. It's scientifically impossible. Okay? So space is fake. Stars aren't what they tell you. They're close. They're small. They're here within the Earth system. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Nobody goes back to the globe once they see flat earthers, right? There's over 300,000 people have my app. There's over 80,000 people that are in the Friend Finder now, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. And we're connecting. We're using their technology against them. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The question is, do you have eyes to see?
Well, I was floating around 200 miles from the North Pole, and I didn't see any hole. Okay.
There's no hole. I don't believe there's a hole. I don't believe there's a hole in the North Pole. I never said that.
Well, no, I didn't hear you say it, and I missed a lot of your show today. But it doesn't change the fact that I'm going to be a normie. I mean, I got a 97 on my FAA written. You know, I've flown around.
We have tons of pilots. All the Qantas pilots, they know, but they don't talk about it because they'll get grounded. Okay? But if you go on YouTube, look up Flat Earth Dave interviews and Flat Earth Dave interviews 2, and just watch a few of those. Guaranteed you won't be a normie if you do that.
Well, did you hear that the president of the Flat Earth Society was arrested for 56 counts of child molesting?
I don't pay attention to nonsense that doesn't involve me.
All right. That's all right, Joe. Okay. Thanks a lot. I got to let you go, John. We're getting short on time. We've got other calls to take, so I appreciate the input.
It's amazing they want to hold on to things. The Flat Earth Society has nothing to do with Flat Earth. It's the globe. The Flat Earth Society is a globe protecting site. That's all.
All right. Let's go on. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the call. John in northern Michigan, thank you for waiting. You're on with Michael and David Weiss. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry to make you wait. Go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Yes. I was wondering, we have a lot of issues here on Earth, whether it's flat or round. And to me, I'm not certain how important it is for me to spend a lot of time investigating the flat Earth. What does this buy us?
Yeah, I think... great question. I'd love to answer it. So the answer is, if you don't know who you are, where you are, what you are, if you think that you're spinning out of control on a speck in an infinite universe, in a distant God or godless universe, you're not ever going to live to your true potential. That's what they want. They want us believing that they want us living in fear with, being worried and scared and sick. They want to put poison in our bodies. They want to control us with frequencies. They want to do all of this to, feather their nest and have us be the serfs. That's why, with the politics, the problems we have in politics, the problems we have with the Rona and and all the other stuff, all of that stems back to where are you? Where are your feet planted? Are you spinning 4 different directions at once through an infinite, impossible space vacuum, basically living in Narnia? Or are you here on the solid foundation? Are you at the center of creation where you're a powerful spiritual being? And until you know where you are, you will never live to your potential. Everything changes. I came up with the line that everyone has. Well, what difference does it make? I still have to go to work and there's other problems in the world. Well, guess what? I walked away from my own company, very successful company, making more money than I ever thought. I walked away from it all because I want a future for my kids. I want a future for myself. I want a future for this world. And we're going into the dark ages if people still live with their heads up their rear ends. Okay? But when you see the flat earth, you unplug from the matrix. You no longer live in fear, and you can see all the deception in this world. So why does it matter? It matters. You're working your ass off to pay for electricity and fuel, and all of that is nonsense, okay? There's free energy technology that was here 100 years ago. They tell us people were on horses and, horse and wagons in the 1800s. There was far advanced technology here, way beyond what we have, okay? All of our history is a lie. It's unbelievable. So why does it matter? It's the most important topic of all time.
All right, John, I'm sorry. I've got to cut you off here because our phone lines are loaded again. I'm running out of time here. So let's first we're going to give you 2 minutes apiece. We're going to go to Dave in New York first. Dave, you're on with Michael and David Weiss. What's on your mind? Oh, that was Dave. I'm sorry. Okay, so then we're going to John in Northern Mission. Is that right?
Well, yes, I appreciate the second call. When you look at the architecture of Europe, you can see that technology. How did they build those buildings, for one thing? But my story I wanted to share with you was a friend of mine. His father was Admiral Byrd's bodyguard. He was in Special Forces, the chief, what they call the people that are frogmen. He was one of those folks, but he ended up being Admiral Byrd's bodyguard when he went to the North Pole, and I'll be really happy to share the story with him. He also said that from China to Australia, underground, deep underground, there is nothing but a tunnel of gold. And I don't know how, but he also said Australia, this is stuff he told me, and this guy he looks like a gangster, but he's really sharp. He's a really smart guy. And he also said that in Antarctica, there's underground cities, there's all sorts of activity going on down there. So this is someone whose father was in Special Forces. He also told me his father, when they left the Marines in the after the war in California, they formed a motorcycle group, and it was called the Hells Angels, and he was number 3 in the Hells Angels. So he's legitimate. This guy is a real legitimate guy.
All right, John, I got to stop you, John. I got to let you go. I only got a few minutes left here, so I want to get these other calls in. So Matt in Tennessee, you're on next with David Weiss and Michael. Go ahead. What's on your mind, buddy?
I just had a question. I'm kind of an agnostic, kind of lean, round earther here, and I'll tell you why. That's what I'm going to ask. How do you explain when you're on a catamaran off of Panama City, and when you go away from the shore, you can see the beach, and then you quit seeing the beach, and you start to see the condos, and then you quit, and then you see the tops of the condos.
Yep.
And I know with the group I was with, when you get to see the top of the condos, you got to go back to the condos because we didn't want to go out where we couldn't see anything because we were on a Hobie Cat.
Understood. So this is called the angular resolution limits of your eyes. When you're looking at a building, the top of the building, you have the largest angle from the ground to the top. But when you're looking at the bottom of the building, that angle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The farther away you get, the horizon's rising to eye level. So thus the bottom of the building will compress. And then there's atmospheric compression. But then there's another problem. In the foreground, like halfway between you and the condo, there's little waves. And those little waves will hide city skylines. They'll hide 20 stories of a building. A little tiny wave that looks like it's at your eye level, it'll hide the bottom half of a building or the whole building. So in the app under where over the horizon, ships over the horizon. Watch it. We break it down for you. We don't just tell you. We show you not just the math. We show you physically what's happening, why it looks this way, and we prove it. But it's really hard to do on a verbal, on an audio radio show. So check out those, and that's what convinced me. Ships over the horizon, because a ship can completely disappear, then you can zoom it in, and there it is again, because you increase its angular size.
All right.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, we're running out of time. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate the call. The last call I'm going to take is Kevin in Ohio. Kevin, you're on with Michael and Dave. Go ahead. What's on your mind, partner?
Did you say Kevin?
Yep. Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Yeah, this is Kevin from Ohio. I was a F-16 mechanic, A-7 mechanic. I can tell you this. You have to talk about the Earth and space. The space shuttle is an aircraft because when it shuts down, you can hear the fuel venting. And I know that sound. I heard it for 30 years. That's what convinced me. Something's not right about this program.
That's when they always have fighter crafts flying in next to it when it's landing to mask the sound.
Yes, and that proves there is no space.
Thank you.
Space is fake. It's anti-religion. All this stuff is about anti-God.
Yep.
The globe model.
Okay. Can I interject here and clarify something, Kevin? You're talking, both you and David, you're talking about some sort of a sound that comes out of the space shuttle when it's landing. Is that correct?
The space shuttle, when it's landing, it's actually an airplane. And you can see the intake valves and the exhaust coming out. And they always have two fighter jets flying right next to it because they need to mask the sound.
Okay. So basically,
it's supposed to be gliding.
Yes.
So,
okay. Yeah.
Beyond that, what I'm trying to tell you guys, beyond that, when it shuts down, you hear this huff, huff, huff. That's the fuel venting inside the wings.
Yep.
That is not a normal sound.
Did you ever question your superiors on that, Kevin? Kevin, did you ever question?
No, I did not. No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
But
you knew something was. You knew there was a rat in the woodpile somewhere, right?
Before we run out of time, on the app there's a button called "Rockets Are Balloons." Wait until you see the space shuttle. That big external tank is a helium balloon. We prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay, nobody is ever on any of these rockets. It's all just a magic show. Right? We have them popping. We have them exploding, and nothing's inside. We have all of it that people just don't get to see, but we grab these videos, and they're there. It's unbelievable. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
All right. Kevin, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate that information. I never knew that. I learned something new today. How about that? David, we're running out of time here, but I want to thank you immensely for coming on the program. And, as I mentioned earlier in the show, this is a program where we can entertain, different thoughts, different opinions, and so forth. And what you've brought to the table is really worth looking into. So, folks, you should go into flatearthdave.com. I know when I get off the air, I'm going to do that. Dave, anything else you want to add before I let you go?
If for some reason flatearthdave.com isn't working, the real website is theflatearthpodcast.com. But Flat Earth Dave will point you there. Theflatearthpodcast.com. Check out the app. Check out my links. If you don't want to buy the app, that's fine. Just go check out all of the other resources on there, and then you'll end up getting the app because you'll want to find some new friends.
Okay, theflatearthwhat.com?
Theflatearthpodcast.com.
Okay.
Very easy. Theflatearthpodcast.com.
All right, Dave, thanks a lot. I appreciate you coming on today. I'd love to have you up again some point. Is that okay?
Anytime. Hit me up. You got my email.
All right, thanks, man. All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, we're out of time. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have something to think about. We'll see you same time, same station next week. And, well, stay out of trouble for now. Election next Tuesday. We'll see what happens. Good night.
We must take America back. We must take America.